Greetings, happy warriors, and welcome to the Rabbi Daniel Lapin Show, where I, your rabbi, reveal how the world really works. And never is it more relevant to be a happy warrior than right now, because almost everybody has to be involved in a struggle. And it's a struggle that revolves around your 5 F's: your family, your finance, your faith, your friendships, and your fitness. And political relationships fall under friendships because they're not family and they're not finance. And almost everybody is embroiled in some way in political struggles, debates about ideas, arguments about deeply held values. And what is more, in the bonus program, which is a program we create specifically for members of the Happy Warrior community, and it's easy to become a member, the bonus this week is explaining what the connection is between the remarkable economic success of Western countries rooted in Judeo-Christian values and the practice of circumcision. Wow! Connection between economics and circumcision? Very much so. And we'll explore that in the bonus. Also, to be aware that there is a free download available. It's called Boost Your Income, the 3 Spiritual Strategies for Success. And all you do is go to rabbidaniellapin.com and you are able to get your free download of an extremely practical and useful resource, Boost Your Income. And that's what it's talking about. It's not talking about becoming happier. It's not talking about becoming more adjusted. It's addressing the basic requirement that each and every one of us has, which is to be able to eat and put food on the table, and that requires income. And in a time of incredible inflation, where it's impossible to go to a grocery store without gasping, increasing one's income is very important. And so Boost Your Income. Go ahead and you'll download that from rabbidaniellapin.com and incorporate it into your practices, developing your finances and your family, and I think you will be extremely gratified at the response. So in the past week, somebody who passed away was Dick Cheney. And you'll remember Dick Cheney was put on the ticket for the 2000 election by George W. Bush. And everybody saw it as a very smart choice because Dick Cheney brought an adult into the room. He brought gravitas. He was serious. He had a long background. He was older. And everyone felt that he would bring benefit to the ticket. And sure enough, he did. He was a long-time champion of free markets, long-time champion of conservative values during a long time in public service. And people respected him on both sides of the aisle, and so George W. Bush narrowly, and you'll remember all the fuss and bother, but he did end up, with the help of the Supreme Court, winning the 2000 election, and Dick Cheney was a strong part of that as his running mate. Shortly after George W. Bush became president and Dick Cheney vice president, the 2001 terrorist attacks on America happened in September, the 11th of September, and what happened was that Cheney acquired great credibility during that period because he came across as sane, and he seriously warned America of a years-long global struggle over Islamic terror. But his strength and his experience reassured the nation, as anxious as it was. In October, just a month after the attacks, he traveled in a motorcade through New York City, and there was applause and relief because people were worried, and they looked at Cheney as a voice of sanity and assurance. And, he really was a good public servant. Winston Churchill once said that it is far easier to be a nation's leader than its number two. And Dick Cheney certainly carried through his task with dignity and with credibility and with honor. And he was appropriately honored by a grateful nation. But, and you knew there was a but coming, right? And, I'm not going to discredit Dick Cheney, but there's something about him that we really have to recognize because it is part of the challenges and difficulties we are now facing. Dick Cheney was part of the long-time Republican dream of conservatism without the Bible. At the time I began promoting and advocating Donald Trump, it was in April 2015, so long before he was elected. But I said a few things about him at the time. One of the things I said was that a pragmatic businessman was going to be a better leader for America than an ideological leftist. And I was very worried about Hillary Clinton. I'd been worried about Barack Obama, and I hadn't even begun to worry about Joe Biden yet. But I saw that Donald Trump would govern pragmatically in a way that made sense for America, and I was good with that, and I still am good with that. What I didn't anticipate was another benefit of Donald Trump. I didn't realize how strongly he was driven by traditional conservative Christian values. And I'm not saying that he lived his life as a Christian saint. I wouldn't say that about too many people. But he certainly saw value in that, probably inherited from his mother and his father, Fred Trump. And there's no question about it that in terms of his picks for the Supreme Court, in terms of his concern about things like abortion and things like homosexuality and other issues, he turned out and is ongoing as probably, I think history will be very kind to him, one of the greatest presidents of the last 100 years, probably. I'm pretty sure. And one of the reasons I think that he won is that he didn't come across as an accountant. He didn't come across as a Republican who had no moral vision and no spiritual values. Dick Cheney never spoke. I know nothing about his personal life, but that's not what I'm talking about. Dick Cheney never, as far as I know, ever spoke about the values, and he never spoke about a movement. Donald Trump did. And I often contrast the leadership styles of an accountant with that of a crusader. And Dick Cheney was a very competent accountant. He was an accountant. He spoke about the advantages of the free market. He didn't say they were morally right. He said they were advantageous. It would be good. And lower taxes, it would be effective. It would be good economics, but not that this is what is needed by a good and moral nation. And, the reason, I would say, that conservatives, secular conservatives is part of this dream of separating the Republican Party from the idea of a base of Christian values. The reason that has never succeeded is because their opponents know exactly what their agenda is. Leftists, progressives, socialists, and communists all know that the agenda is to oppose biblical ideas. And so conservatives are trying to defend ideas, but not focusing on the morality of those ideas. And the left knows intuitively. Leftists don't have to have meetings to discuss their talking points. They all have them. They know them. When was the last time you were hearing coherent talking points coming from Republicans? I dare say it was Newt Gingrich in 1994. So let's go through some of the things that the left knows intuitively what their agenda has to be. Look at transgenderism, all aspects of it, girls, men playing in women's sports, men using women's changing rooms, men criminals incarcerated in women prisons, the rapid decision to take young girls and subject them to irreversible, dangerous medical procedures in their desire to be boys and to do the same to men. Look, it impacts, let's face it, we're 330 million people in America. It impacts a tiny number of people, right? It wouldn't be the first time that a government or a political party decided to overlook the concerns of a small group of people. It's happened many, many times, but they couldn't do it this time. What's more is it's a political loser with mid-America, right? As soon as President Trump started speaking out against transgenderism, people were with him, solid. A tiny, noisy minority didn't like it. Bad, it's not fair to trans people. But overwhelming the majority of people appreciated it and welcomed it because it's madness. But how come no Democratic leader, no older Democratic leader, I don't know, Chuck Schumer, or any of these people, why have none of them been able to say, look, guys, all my friends in the Democratic Party, all of you who believe that this country needs to be led by Democratic Party principles, listen, let's drop the trans stuff now. Let's do this like Barack Obama said he would never support homosexual marriage during his campaign. Guess what? As president, he did. Let's do the same thing, guys. Come on. Cut back. Stop talking and acting and being crazy about transgenderism. Everything will be okay when we're in power. We'll do what we want. Couldn't do it. He couldn't stop the Democratic base because they are crusaders. And the crusade is to undermine the centrality of the Bible. It's as simple as that. The Bible says, male and female, he created them. And you should all know where the Bible says that, by the way. Do you all know? Can you cite chapter and verse? It's Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. 127. And then, obviously, if the Bible says male and female, God created us as two separate parts of creation, then obviously the left, socialism, progressives, obviously are going to push in the reverse direction. And therefore, there's no difference between men and women. Crazy it is. But crusaders are not bound by the limits of sanity. They are bound by nothing except the fervor of their beliefs. And so a verse later, Genesis 1:28, it speaks about God blessing man and woman and asking them to have many children and for them to become stewards of the world and to lead it and to dominate it. Doesn't mean to destroy it, obviously. It means to lead it responsibly, but to benefit from the world. And so obviously the aggressive left and the crusading left has to do the opposite. Radical environmentalism, God says, go ahead and use the earth, dominate it. No, we mustn't use the earth. And so radical environmentalism becomes part of the left. And have many children. So the left has to go onto the policy of diminishing fertility, obviously, in spite of the fact that everybody knows that the problem is not too many people, the problem is too few people. That's really the problem in all the industrialized countries of the West. England and all of Europe, South Korea, Japan, excepting Israel, because Israel rejects the premise of radical secularism. Israel is basically a religious country, just as America is. And so, therefore, obviously, they had to promote cutting back on fertility. Well, they've succeeded far too well. They've got to promote radical environmentalism at any cost whatsoever. No matter how more expensive power becomes, we've got to push sustainable electricity and energy. All of this is nonsense, but nonsense doesn't mean anything to the crusader. It means something only to the accountant. But you can't win hearts and souls and minds with the arguments of an accountant. And for that reason, Dick Cheney never became a hero to the people. He was always almost a dark shadow in the background, sometimes portrayed darkly. And he wasn't dark. Promotion of homosexuality and same-sex marriage, I just mentioned that in the context of Barack Obama, but, why do that? Why not be happy to oppose smoking? Well, because smoking is not a biblical matter. So that's never as much of a concern. And so the left is happy to speak aggressively about how bad smoking is, but never about how bad homosexuality was, even during the 1980s, when the immunized deficiency disease of AIDS was an outcome of homosexuality. And even then, it would have made perfect sense for a serious leadership to say, listen, we have to stop promoting homosexuality as a wonderful lifestyle. It's too unhealthy. No, we'll push smoking and make it illegal because it's unhealthy, but not a lifestyle that the Bible prohibits, because we will never, ever speak in tandem with the Bible. Going easy on criminals. That's a major feature of the left. Find a reason to go easy on criminals. During the rioting and destruction of 2020, easy on criminals. In San Francisco's crime spree, let's make shoplifting below $900 to be okay. It's not a serious problem. Going easy on criminals has always been a serious feature of the left. Why? Obviously, because the Bible is strong on human self-will and self-accountability and moral decision and moral agency and the necessity of a reliable criminal justice system. The Bible's full of that. Never making excuses for criminals. Well, liberalism, socialism, progressivism, communism has to do the reverse. You know what the closest we have is to a government-endorsed religious faith? I think it's feminism. That's the closest we've got. Because the Bible teaches that family is the basic unit of society. You know, it was never that women were denied the vote because nobody liked women. It was because until the 1950s, most women were either daughters in their family or wives and mothers in their own new family. And the vote was something that was carried by the family. A family voted. It wasn't designed to keep women underneath the rest of society. No, a husband and wife vote. And to this day, I have to tell you, I see it as a huge warning bell when a couple tells me that they vote opposite. One votes conservative, one votes liberal. I see it as a huge problem in that marriage. But everything that the left does is to undermine family. Everything. Feminism is perhaps the left's most effective tool at undermining the power of the family, because the Bible is all for the family, and so the left must be all for the destruction of the family. It makes it so easy. It is one of the real reasons why the left seems to win so much. How about the left's opposition to wealth? Isn't it funny to watch politicians offer a revised history of their backgrounds to show that they all came from poverty? Right? Why do all politicians want to come from poverty? Because they see they've adopted a leftist view on wealth. The Bible conveys not capitalism at all. Capitalism isn't synonymous with the Bible, no. But a free market economy is, where people can trade as they will, and that money is proof that you served and benefited another child of God. That's why the free download book, Boost Your Income, is so important, because when you understand the moral benefits and the moral mandates of free market trading, and that your business is not only a profitable business, but it's a dignified, moral, noble expression of biblical values, that's really valuable to know. So please don't forget to download your own free ebook, Boost Your Income, on our website. And you just go ahead and download it. It's really easy. And while you're there, also make sure that you are a member of the Happy Warrior community. Easy to become a member. That way you're able to get the bonuses. And this one is about circumcision and economics. So you'll be able to enjoy that as well. But the Bible is in favor of building wealth. There's no question about it. And so the left has to be opposed to wealth. We have to tax the rich must pay their fair share. All of that just expresses this deep hostility to anything that stems from biblical values. And, it goes on and on and on. How's about, let's look at America's ability to defeat the terrible union we're seeing going on right now between Islam and the left. Isn't it weird that you see a united alliance between Islam and the left? They all demonstrate together on the streets of London and on the streets of Chicago, Islam and the left. And there are students who are leftists, and there are Islamics who are Islamic, and they are arm in arm and shoulder to shoulder in their determination to harm America. And how does America defeat this? After all, America is fighting a unified enemy, where Islam, with all its destructive intent, and the left, which intends to destroy the vision of America, the biblical vision of America, America has to move away from the Dick Cheney vision. And they've got to move closer to a biblical blueprint for America. because the left is utterly faithful to its anti-biblical blueprint, and its allies, the Muslims, are utterly faithful to their spiritual matrix, which includes establishing Islamic Sharia over all of the countries of the West, including the United States. Both the left, the socialists, and the Muslims are led by crusaders. Think of Zohran Mamdani, recently won the election of mayor of New York. Crusader or accountant? His critics have pointed out that he's got absolutely no management experience. He's not an accountant, never claimed to be an accountant. But is Zohran Mamdani a crusader? And he won. And the Muslims are also led by crusaders all the time. They're not embarrassed about their religion. But conservatives for many, many decades have tried to hide the Christian source of conservative values and not reveal them, and to be these enlightened conservatives who see conservative values as making economic sense because we are accountants. Well, accountants lose when they go up against crusaders. That's just the sad reality, and it's very much to the point of why Donald Trump is doing so well and why it is that the Republican Party of Dick Cheney is really doomed. In this new era in which we live, that's not going to be the way to win. Thanks for being part of the Rabbi Daniel Lapin Show. And if you are indeed a Happy Warrior member, which you should be, you go ahead and you'll enjoy the bonus broadcast as well. Until next week, I want to wish you a week of growing onwards and upwards in your family, your finances, your faith, your fitness, and your friendships. I'm Rabbi Daniel Lapin. God bless.